Well, a bit of a mad one, really, at the weekend, Neil, in the sort of performance where you change four players at the same time, and yet with the chances you created, four, five, six really good ones. Having had 48 hours to think about it, have you been able to make any more sense of it?
Yeah, well, sometimes you just have to accept that it wasn't your day. So a couple of things. You normally change four players at one time in a game because you're not happy about something. So I clearly wasn't happy about the way we were playing or the way the game was going. I was about to make three changes just before they scored, so it became four on the conceding the goal. Having assessed the game, assessed it with the group this morning as well, look, we didn't play very well. We didn't start the game right for a game at the Abbey Stadium. We didn't impose ourselves on the game as much as we would like, certainly with the ball. We gave a really poor goal away. We turned the ball over too cheaply. But ultimately, we could have won the game 5-0. And if you can't win a game, you have to have a clean sheet. So that was our downfall, is that we gave a poor goal away. First goal was always going to be key. And we had numerous opportunities to do it, and that wasn't just down to one player, that was down to three or four players that had the opportunity. Even when we went behind, we could have scored 3 or 4 goals. So I'm not sugarcoating it at all. We didn't play very well on the day. We certainly didn't lose to the better team, that's for sure. We were the better team. But that's the level, isn't it? It comes back and bites you on the bum if you don't take your opportunities.
Yeah, and I guess there's always that risk generally. You've had a great run of pulling results, pulling points out of games, and really Saturday should have been another one of those when you have those chances, regardless of everything else that happened. A draw at the very least should have come out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's where you look back at like Burton, for example, where it was all disappointed with the 0-0 and we dominated 70-75% possession and chance after chance, and we didn't go in, but we then won at Shrewsbury, and all of a sudden that Burton becomes a really, really good point. So that's where the disappointment, I think, from Cheltenham is that the very worst case it should be a draw, and whether that's 0-0 or 1-1 because we give a poor goal away is a little bit irrelevant. But ultimately, another positive is we did make really good chances, and we have to keep doing that. But we have to be mindful as well. We have to approach the game as the home team slightly better against a team that's lower in the table than us, and ultimately every good moment was followed by a poor moment. And that's not consistent with the way I want the team to play, and it hasn't been consistent with the way we played. So, that was a frustration in the stadium, not just for the supporters, but for me as well. But again, we can't change it now. And what happens in football sometimes is, you follow a negative with a positive, and we certainly have to do that tomorrow night at Portsmouth because that is one hell of a challenge.
It's probably quite nice, is it, that it's a very different sort of game, a different sort of challenge?
Yes, probably well articulated. Different challenge away from home. Change of mindset for us. Change of expectation, circumstance on the game. I think people probably turned up Saturday at the Abbey not expecting a home win, hoping for a home win, but probably a better display than they got. Whereas you go to Portsmouth and all the pressure's on Pompey as a home team, the top of the league for a reason. They're expected to beat us. They're expected to make the run-in. It's down to us to make it as difficult as possible for the opponent against a good side, but also be the best version of us. And Saturday we wasn't, so we have to do that tomorrow night.
And a good example with Portsmouth, even the best of the best at the top of the table had a bit of a blip over Christmas, but they seem to have got back on the horse.
Yeah, the Portsmouth, Derby, Bolton, Peterborough to a certain extent. You're talking about good sides. You're talking about teams that are up there for a reason because of what they invest in the structure, infrastructure, and playing squad. And you have to find your best ways to compete. We've been able to do that. I know we come off the back of a disappointing narrow defeat at the weekend, but we've found ways to compete in the game since I've been here, and we have to do that tomorrow night.
And with the team selection and the injury picture, I guess to a degree we got a glimpse of it second half on Saturday. You are now in the position with personnel, shape, tactics, with what you've done in the January window. If everyone can stay fit, you've got quite a nice bit to work with.
Yeah, and those are positives when we changed to a 3-5-2 at the end. Was a positive, and it was to try and get an extra attacking player higher up the pitch. And once we worked out we could play forward a little bit quicker. Rather than passing the ball sideways and backwards, then we was a real handful. And Macaulay Bonne extremely disappointed afterwards that he didn't have a couple of goals to his name on his debut, which he deserved. Yes, it's food for thought in personnel coming in and personnel that's available. That whether that's in game like the other day, or whether from the start, a change of shapes, a possibility, change of personnel, and that probably goes without saying for most teams that play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. Obviously, last Tuesday was called off, so we've got the freedom that we've only played once over the 7-day period. But as time goes on, then certainly the thought processes on selection might be dictated to more by who's available.
Yeah, and with McCall, he's obviously going to be frustrated with how it panned out on Saturday, but he is just fresh through the door, and it's very early days for him. So I guess it's really important he's not too hard on himself.
Oh yeah, it won't be too hard. Well, no, he will be hard on himself. Nobody else should be. I'm certainly not. He won't be too hard on himself because he knows he's a goal scorer. And he's got a pedigree of scoring goals, and he will score goals if he gets into those positions. He just didn't make the right contacts on the ball and that concentration as well as anything. But I thought the build-up play, the ability that we possessed in Lyle's quality play, to be fair, but then Soleil and Catcher as well. It just gave us avenues to be creative. And whoever's playing at the top end of the pitch, when you've got creativity around, you're going to have opportunities.
And you were hoping that by now you'd have a bit more clarity on Gassan and exactly where he's at. Is that picture now a bit clearer?
It is, yes, yeah, and really good news on Gassan. No surgery needed. The bruising in the foot is healing nicely. So he's still not close to being back with the group. But rather than looking at a possible end of season outcome, we're now looking at a sort of a 6-week period from last week. So we're hoping that Gassan's going to be back to full training in about 5 weeks' time now. So there's no reason why Gassan shouldn't be available, certainly from April onwards, maybe slightly before.
Brilliant. That's great from me.
Yeah, good. Steve?
Right, Neil, just on Gassan
yeah.
there. How good is it to know that he'll be available, hopefully, for the running then?
Yeah, again, not counting the chickens because there's a long way to go for Gassan. The nature of the injury, structure of the foot, really tough to recoup from. It's just really positive that it's gone so well so far, and the secondary scan has showed a lot of healing. If we can get him back for the April period and the 5 or 6 games in that month, that would be a massive boost for everybody. If there was any chance of before, we'd be ecstatic over it. But just to have him back around the group would be nice. Have him back on the training pitch. Just adding to the group would be a real positive for everybody.
Injury-wise, from Saturday, did everyone come through the game okay?
Yes, looks like it. Yeah, looks like we're fine. Sometimes that's the beauty of when you make changes. When you make 4 changes at sort of 65, 70 minutes, then you take a little element of risk out the equation. We look like we're okay.
You obviously weren't too happy with Saturday's performance. Is there a specific area that you're looking to improve heading into tomorrow night, or is it a number of areas?
No, and again, I'm not going to break down too much and bemoan the players because they've done really, really well. So what I was disappointed with how we started the game at the Abbey. It wasn't a renowned Cambridge United first 10 minutes of the game where we put the team opposition on the back foot by playing in the right areas. That was a big thing, and we didn't build momentum from that. Any time we had a positive, we followed it with a negative. So Lyle Taylor has a 1-on-1, nearly scores. Disappointed he didn't score, obviously he was. But then the next 2 things we done was we turned down the opportunity to play in the right areas, and then we turned the ball over twice in the space of 60 seconds, one from a throw-in and one in open play in the middle of the pitch. We can't afford to do that. When you just almost scored, you've got to keep the opponent on the back foot. So my gripe was we started poorly, and then we shot ourselves in the foot time and time again, and that's when we was in a good moment, we followed it with a negative. And whether that was giving the ball away cheaply, or whether that was not playing in the right areas, that's the debate. So overall, it wasn't a good performance, but still we did enough to win at least 1, if not 2 games of football.
Yeah, and what type of side are Portsmouth, and what type of game are you expecting tomorrow night?
They're a side at the top of the league, Stephen. So expecting a very difficult game. They're a team like Bolton, like Peterborough to a certain extent. certainly like Barnsley, certainly like Stevenage, that they can pass the ball, but they can also put it on you as well. And they're extremely good at set plays. So not only do you have to get it right at the top end of the pitch to try and stop them, you also have to get it right at the back end of the pitch where you've got to stand up to their physical nature of their play and their forward movement. They've just got good players. They've recruited good players at the level, brought some good players at the level, and they ask a lot of questions from you. So it's a game where we certainly could be better than we was Saturday against Cheltenham. And I want to see more of a Cambridge United side that I saw in my first 9 games rather than my 10th.